computer. Hey everybody, it's Natalie Needham here. I'm here with Jean-Francois Tremblay, the owner of our beloved CanLab, who make these amazing peptides that we all love to learn about. I'm a holistic nutritionist, I'm an epigenetic coach, I'm a health coach, and I became fascinated with peptides, let me see, was it like back in April or something. And ever since I got introduced to them in a lecture, I've been obsessed. So this is the third video in a series that Jean-Francois has been kind enough to do with us. This was all generated out of a Facebook group that I had co-administer with Jeff Robinson, and we're lucky enough to have Jean-Francois as a member of the group, so he helps us out every once in a while, trying to understand some of the finer points around peptides. And tonight we're really going to dig in a little bit into the differences between two peptides that sound a lot alike, but are very, very different. They are Thymulin and Thymalin. We're going to talk a little bit about Villon, which is part of the whole thymosin world, but it is more of a bioregulator, which Jean-Francois is going to tell us about as well. And so just as a preparatory thing, like most of you probably know that the thymus gland involutes in people past the age of 30. So that means it basically stops functioning in the way that we need it to. And so the cool thing about these peptides is we now can give our bodies access to a better supply of these thymosin or thymus peptides, right, that basically upregulate or modulate our immune function. So that's my very short introduction. Jean-Francois, I'm going to let you dig in now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Thymulin and the Thymulin, and let's start with those and we'll go to Villon afterwards.
Okay.
Wow.
Hi, everybody. Okay, yeah, big, for some people, big confusion on those ones, and I understand. It's not, because that confusion has been increased by people selling on their website.
They interchange them.
Exactly. They say they sell Thymalin, and then they give the description for Thymulin. Even those people in China, they're confused. You go on Alibaba, punch in Thymalin, and you get sources for Thymulin. And, you know, I did write to those people, and, you know, back then, and they said, no, it's the same. No, it's not. Okay, so to make it easy to understand, Thymalin and Thymulin. Thymalin is a bioregulator, 2-amino acid peptide. And as I said, it's a bioregulator. It doesn't go out of the thymus. It's once you take it, it goes in the thymus, it stays there. And with all bioregulator, what it does, it introduces itself within the DNA chain, remains there, dilate the chain, kind of, so to say, to provoke the expression of genes that are positive to the activity of the thymus. So that's one thing. That activity of the thymus then brings about the secretion by the thymus of not thymosin alpha 1, that big protein out of which thymosin alpha 1 is we extract, or thymosin beta 4, that's another branch. So the thymus produce that big protein. And
is it not the TB500?
Yeah, the thymosin, the actual name, thymosin beta 4. Which there is a controversy on that. You know, the names are interchanged.
Yeah.
So
there's the same confusion with TB4 and TB500 in some.
Well, actually, TB500 is a fraction of thymosin beta 4.
Right, exactly.
It's the fraction of thymosin beta 4 that works only on repairing tendons and kind of heart tissues.
That only
bones.
repairs the musculoskeletal. That's the prescription.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Musculoskeletal. Yeah.
Because thymosin beta 4 has a lot of other activities on the nervous system, on the dendrites of the nerve cells.
Yeah.
It's a bit like thymosin alpha 1, it does regulate the immune system too, not as strongly as thymosin alpha 1, but it has some of that activity too. So, you know, TB, what is called actual TB 500 is 7 amino acid sequence taken out of thymosin beta 4.
Yeah, you said
to,
it was one of
to
the, right?
Yeah, to pinpoint those activity. I'll finish with that, then we'll come back to the Thymalin and everything.
Okay. Okay.
So there is a use for that actually, because why? Because being smaller, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Less amino acids, and then I'll modulate on that later too.
I know, because sometimes that backfires.
But by weight, because it's 7 amino acids versus 43. So you get like more than 6 times more molecules per milligram. So if you take 10 milligrams, or yeah, people are going to freak out if I say 10. If you take 5 or 2.5 milligrams of actual TB 500, you will have 6 times more activity repairing, specific repairing activity than the thymosin beta 4.
Yeah.
So if you take it for, like, let's say you tore the ligament, nothing else, then yeah, you take this one, it's going to be much more cost efficient than taking thymosin beta 4.
And so what do you
So if it's for something, if it's for something more complex, then yeah, go for the thymosin beta 4.
Yeah.
But if it's specifically, you have an athlete tears a ligament, TB 500. Then that's why at the beginning, that's the one they were using. Basically, it started with race horses.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so they didn't care about their immune system or anything. They just wanted the horse to run, hurt, heal, go. So there is a use for it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could go like half and half or do combination. Anyway, we will market soon. We made like 1 gram of actual TB 500. I'm just afraid I'm going to put it on the website, because then I'm going to have thymosin beta 4 and TB 500. I just can't imagine the number of emails I'll receive. Oh, you know, explaining the difference and everything.
We'll make a video for that too.
I'll see how I deal with that.
Yeah.
So that's that for
one of the few that actually distinguishes between the two, right?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a known thing for some, but overall we would interchange, because for most people they are the same. Even at that IPS conference I went, they're very aware of the differences, but they would refer either to TB 500 or TB 4 as the same, because now it's rare. Very few. I don't know of any company that sells right now the actual TB 500. Right. Everybody shifted for the 43 amino acids TB 4.
Okay.
So, okay, back to the thymosin alpha 1. Then, okay, secreted by the thymus, you have thymosin, well, eventually thymosin alpha 1. Thymulin will modulate the immune system a bit differently than thymosin alpha 1. So basically that is the difference. If you want to understand
okay, so no, wait 1 second, just back up a second, because I'm a bit confused, so maybe people will be
okay, yeah.
So Thymalin, the A, right, which is the 2 amino acid peptide, is actually a bioregulator.
That's right.
That it beelines for the thymus gland.
It makes the thymus
helix that regulates the production of other thymus.
It's a regulator, a bit like an adaptogen. So if the organ was, hyperactive for some reason, then it would kind of bring it down. If it's too slow, not active, it brings it where it's naturally supposed to be optimally. Now, to understand the difference, it's a bit like there is a bioregulator for the pancreas. I think I used that example before.
Yeah.
So let's take the pancreas that secretes insulin.
Yeah.
So Thymalin, the bioregulator, is to the thymus what I don't remember the name, that it's a tripeptide for the pancreagen, it's called, with a lot of imagination. And
we don't need imagination, we need clarity.
And thymosin alpha 1 and thymulin would be what insulin is to the pancreas.
Okay.
So if you take thymosin alpha 1, if you take thymulin, you won't do nothing to improve the actual functions of the thymus.
Right.
As let's say you have diabetes type 1, you take insulin,
yeah,
sugar level, yeah, that's under control. But your pancreas is not repaired; it's still sick.
Right.
So that's how you can see the analogies. What are the difference between the two?
Okay, so basically, thymosin alpha 1 and thymulin are essentially, they are a little bit different, but they're both immune system modulators.
That's right.
Right. Whereas the thymalin really acts on the thymus gland and gets it to do the work, to do the thymosin alpha 1.
That exactly. So in an ideal therapy where you would have a weak immune system, you would do both at this, because the upregulation of the thymus doesn't happen that fast. You know, it's over time.
Yeah.
So you would do both. You would do, for example, thymosin alpha 1 to attend the problem at hand, a dysregulated immune system, and you would start at the same time a Thymalin therapy, or Violin, or both, to slowly regulate the thymus. So eventually you wouldn't depend on the thymosin alpha 1 or thymulin to have a proper immune response.
Right.
So in the best of worlds, you would start both basically at the same time, and over time you could slowly drop the thymosin alpha 1 and be on your own, and everything would be good.
Okay. Okay, good. So, I just thought of something, but now I forgot. Okay, we're gonna keep going. So the one thing we had this interesting conversation last week, because when I went on the website, I'm like, oh my God, Thymulin, it's $450, but it's only 2 amino acids.
Yeah, okay.
You explain to me why that is. So I'd love for you to explain that now.
Let me explain to you the history of peptide synthesis.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, the only way peptides could be synthesized was through what they call liquid phase. I'm not much aware of the exact details because I've never seen it. It's not very well used. It's very, but basically it's a very inefficient process.
Yeah.
So that would, at the time I remember, I think I mentioned it before when I got first interested in peptide, it was with melanotan. And back then it was made with liquid phase. So it would be like $1,000 per milligram. Ridiculously expensive. So, to get a tan that $1,000 a day US, no. And then some guy somewhere somehow found an alternative, and now they use solid phase. They use it's solid, it's still in liquid but much less, and it's they attach the first amino acid to a silicon microscopic ball, and they build a peptide from that, one by one. So they call it solid phase, and you just go on Wikipedia, solid phase, liquid phase, they'll explain all the details in deep, and you'll see the difference. But the whole story is, and that's when peptides are available because now it was a lot cheaper, like a lot cheaper to
So this
make.
made it, yeah, okay.
Except that solid phase doesn't work with dipeptide and tripeptides. It works sometimes with some tripeptides, but it's hard and the yield is not that great. But you can use it once you start with 4 amino acids
Okay.
and up. And again, that's why if you go on sites that sell peptides by number of amino acids, you can find them, like those places. They don't sell BPC or anything. They say, no, you want 6 amino acids. They'll tell you the price depending on the number of amino acids and the purity. 90%, 95, 98, and prices change. And how many acids independently of which one. But if you look closely, they all start at 4 amino acids. They say they don't start at 2 or 3. They start at 4 because they only do solid phase. They don't do liquid phase.
Okay.
Because you need to kind of master that process. It's very delicate, very hard. You lose a lot of product because it's too much liquid and you cannot recuperate. So that's why it is more expensive. That's not due to the number of amino acid. It's due to the process to make specifically
Perfect.
2 and 3 amino acid peptides. That's why they're more expensive.
Great. Well, thanks for explaining that. So, okay, so the other, there's just a couple more things because we said we were going to keep this one a bit shorter.
Uh-huh.
So the one thing I think that bears mentioning is that, actually, no, let's talk about Bilon first. And basically what I was going to say is that a lot of Dr. Cavinson's really seminal studies, the ones that he did, 6-year study and the 12-year study that he did with Epitalon.
Well, it did a few more, yeah.
He paired Epitalon with Thymulin in some of them,
and Violin.
And Vylon or whatever.
Vylon, yeah.
Vylon.
And some of them, either one
and both
would
seem to give great results, right?
And it figures because if your immune system is strong, you get less sick, you have better defense. Even if you begin some type of cancer, you kill it in the egg. If your immune system is strong, it's part of what it does. Yeah. So obviously, yeah, you're going to live longer if you don't get as much sick. So it makes total sense that combining. Now the tendency proposed by some people in longevity therapies, like they propose to do thymosin alpha 1 a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
Again, because you that immune strengthening, but now what you strengthen is not the organ, you strengthen the
it's more like sweeping up, right? Like it's more
yeah.
like you're mopping the floor a little bit. You're not
so really exactly, you don't go at the root.
Yeah.
So me, I still believe, and actually, if you look into it, because Violin, Thymalin, Epitalon, all those because people, they ask me Pinealon and Cortagen, and I have like 8 more now that we're gonna put in vials. They ask what is the protocol, and basically there is only one protocol. It's 5 milligrams per day for 20 days. Same thing as Epitalon. There might be more efficient protocols, but no, I don't. There are no study on that, and I don't know of anybody tweaking.
Yeah.
Because they get great results with that, and it's working basically. So I stick to those protocol with those, and yes, except if you have, like for example, I had that woman a few years ago. She was in the terminal phase of cancer, and I just pumped her up. That's when the company started. Like the first month, as soon as I released the Epitalon, she said, okay, her daughter, she says, okay, from you, I'll go. And I was pumping her up. Well, she was, I think it was 20 milligrams of epitalon per day and 20 milligrams of Thymalin per
Wow.
day. And from the first day, like she was in pain, she couldn't get out of bed, and almost overnight, day and night, big changes. And she continued. It was too late. Eventually, she didn't make it, but her quality of life was highly increased.
That's amazing.
Because in some therapies you can use them, cancer and all that, you throw in those peptides and yes, it will help, but higher dosage. Now it's therapeutic, it's not preventive, you don't. So
Right.
what would happen over a few years, you kind of squeeze it into a few weeks.
So,
uh,
so can I ask you? So, epitalon and pinealon, both of epitalon and pinealon act on the pineal gland?
no, they call it pineal, but it works on the brain.
Oh, that's more of a brain one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to talk about that. We'll do another podcast
Yeah.
about. So the last one we said we were going to touch on a little bit was Vylon or Vylon.
Uh-huh.
Just how is it different than the others? So it's also more of a regulator, right?
Yeah, the actual details right now, on the out of the top of my head, I don't want to induce anybody in error. I'm not. I couldn't tell right now.
Okay.
But basically, it regulates the thymus gland.
It's basically another thymus regulator.
Yeah, but it has some effect too in other tissues
Okay.
that were found. Not saying that Thymalin doesn't, but it was not studied. That's always the thing too.
Pleiotropic,
That
right?
big science-driven thing we see today. If it's not in a study, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not like that. Otherwise, I think I mentioned that. No, science is the history of clinical experience.
Right.
Meaning, clinician, they do things,
Yeah.
then suddenly the scientists, they say, oh, that seems to work. Let's look at why. And then they look at why and they say, yeah, it works because of this, this, and this. Let's publish something. And then you have the paper, and now it's written in the scientific, and now everybody does it.
Yeah.
It's not because it's not already in a scientific study that it doesn't work. It just we don't know yet for sure in terms of the why and how. But clinically, you have people using it for so long with positive results. If it walks like a duck and quack like a duck, well, it's probably a duck.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. So we can dig into Vylon a little bit more another time, but suffice to say that it's another thymus regulator. So it's in that family of peptides that's going to have a positive effect on the immune system as immune modulating or whatever the case is.
And if for those bioregulator, there is Cavinson, there is a site where it's the St. Petersburg Institute of Gerontology. They have their own website, Cavinson. Just look on Google, Cavinson peptides, and you're going to see a lot of link, and you'll see one, and then there you can find, there is one website that you find all the studies that he made. He describes all the peptides and everything. Again, I'm going to repeat something though. All the studies he made were on injectable peptides, the pure peptides, like epitalon, 10 milligrams. But probably for legal reasons in Russia too, what is sold in pharmacies there and on the internet are capsule of the extract of the gland that, yes, have some of the peptide, but very poorly absorbed. And because some people at one point was saying, oh, I got that thymus extract, injectable, so it's 10 milligrams. I say, yeah, it's 10 milligrams of the extract. how many milligrams of the actual peptide do
Yeah.
you get in the extract. So yes, it's good. Because I think there is a German one. I had a few clients telling me they're using it with good results, I believe. But basically, they get a much smaller quantity of the actual bioregulator that does the thing.
Isn't it kind of like using desiccated thyroid versus TH3 or
Yeah.
TH4? It's basically the same thing. So
Yeah.
it would have some benefit maybe in terms of having all those compounds in it, but you don't.
Well, if you would have access to it, I would use both at the same time. If money is not a problem, you have access. Because again, we don't know everything. There might be some cofactor in the extract that makes the whole thing work better.
For sure.
So I would take the extract for all those cofactor that we don't know about, maybe we didn't find yet, or isolated, and the peptide that we know that does work in a higher quantity. So you would get both. It's like, okay, vitamin C. You can take a pill of vitamin C, or you can eat an orange.
Or
Me, I
AMPA.
say
Yeah.
eat a pill of vitamin C with an orange. So you'll
Yeah.
have all the cofactors that will help to the assimilation, to the absorption, to everything, to support the action of the vitamin C. Take both. If you can afford and everything, take both. But if you want to be money efficient, actually, even a peptide like Thymalin, that's going to be 450, that's twice a year. And if you do all your calculation, it's still cost effective compared to all those other therapies. And one thing, when you say Cavinson in his studies, they were taking, let's say, Thymalin and epitalon at the same time. It doesn't mean they were taking at the same time. It could easily be you do epitalon for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 months after you do the Thymalin. 3
Mhm.
months after you do the epitalon again, and you rotate like that. Doesn't have to be
Yeah.
taken at the same time. It just meant taken at the same time in that yearly or study time frame.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
because now when I do design some long-term anti-aging program, and where I do rotations, and I do that, I say, okay, 20 days of epitalon, for example, and 3 months after, another bioregulator, then epitalon again. And,
Yeah.
and if you are to take more, then yeah, you can take 2 at the same time. But it doesn't have to be taken like today at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just in
They
that
don't have to
whole
be tracked.
schedule of things,
Yeah.
they eventually both appear in your therapy.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think we've done what we said we were going to do, and even a little bit more as usual.
Yeah, it's okay. A short one. And yeah, if there is anything else.
If anybody needs to get in touch with Jean-Francois, you can find him at canlab.net. Right?
Well, the easiest way actually is on Facebook, the CanLab,
Yeah.
nothing else.
The CanLab page.
CanLab page, that's where I answer questions. I post articles. When a new product comes out, if they want to keep up with new things happening, or if I find a very interesting article that just came out, then I'll post it there. And
And every once in a while, he'll share
I'm
it.
not much of a writer,
Yeah.
so that's why I like to do those podcasts.
And every once in a while, you'll share it with us on our Facebook group, which is Biohacking Superhuman Performance, where you can sometimes find Jean-Francois there, or you can reach out to me through Biohacking Superhuman Performance, and I can sometimes get in touch with Jean-Francois or answer your questions myself if it's within my scope to do so. So
yeah, and people are learning actually. No, because today somebody was asking a question about, I don't remember what, and Jeff gave a very good answer.
Yeah.
And then somebody asked me to come in, to jump in, and I say no. Actually, Jeff gave a perfect answer.
It was the
Nothing to add to
BPC
that.
157. Yeah.
And so people are learning. And that's good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We're all getting there. No, I saw the
less
answer
work on
you gave. It was a
less work on my side. I love that.
okay. Oh, and one last thing. The last time we recorded one of these, somebody asked why Jeff and I were both wearing glasses. So
Oh,
you seem to be in a nice dim environment over there, but I'm in a very brightly lit kitchen, and because it's 9 o'clock at night, I'm wearing my blue blockers to
yeah.
protect my sleep. So
Me,
although
I'm in the cave. My
you
office is in the
probably
cave.
you have,
Not the lab, though. We don't make the peptides in a cave.
no, you make them in a lab. We know. Okay, so Jean-Francois, thank you so much. We'll do another one of these at some point down the road, maybe about Dinan or something else. But thank you for your time tonight. And yeah, we'll look forward to more amazing things coming out of CanLab. Very, very
Great. Talk
okay.
to you soon then.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.